There's something very special about just creating space with nothing inside.
Hmm.
And one practice that I've done a few times lately that I really enjoy is just sitting down for an hour and with nothing, no music, no talking, just 1 hour sitting on the floor. You don't have to sit on the floor, you can sit on a chair, but just sitting for 1 hour with a straight spine and doing nothing, not trying to control your thoughts, not trying to control your breathing, not even trying to meditate, just creating space. And it's a really, really powerful thing. I think we often try to do something like, oh, I'm not feeling well. I need to do something about it. I'm not feeling happy. I need to do something. I think sometimes the best thing we can do is create space. And when you create space, something beautiful can come in,
Hmm.
right? Like they say, there's nothing as fertile as empty space. So you create an empty space. And maybe it's just like your mind needed some time to work through something it was working through. Your body needed some time to work through something it was working through. And just by creating that space, I think a lot of healing and can happen.
And how do you set that up? Do you make sure there's no outside distractions? You make sure everyone understands, okay, I'm gonna just be spending some time here. Like how do you set that up?
Yeah, that would be it. Is just find a quiet space where you can go into, and if you have people that you live with, say, I'm going to go sit for an hour, and an hour might be absolutely overwhelming for someone if they've never meditated before. And if you
Hmm.
haven't, that's why a lot of these things take gradual progress. If you've never sat quietly by yourself before, it might be overwhelming to you. So for someone in that position, maybe the Headspace app would be a great place to start because it's guided meditations.
Hmm.
And we often need that help. I needed that help. I couldn't have gone into a self-guided yoga practice right off the bat. I needed a teacher to help guide me. I wouldn't have gone into a cold shower on my own. I
Hmm.
needed off to help guide me. That's why I took his courses. So you find these teachers, you find people that can help guide you through these things. And if they're a good teacher, hopefully they're not trying to get you hooked on them for the rest of your life,
Hmm.
trying to coach you along. And as you get stronger, then you won't need them as often. Maybe they'll
Hmm.
find other teachers, maybe they'll become a teacher themselves. But I believe there's enough people out there that need help that none of us as coaches need to try to create a business where you're hooked on us for a
Yeah.
life. Like
Yeah.
there's lots of other systems that are working that way. There's always going to be people that need help. Um, so I hope that answers that
You
question.
did. It actually spiked or piqued a little bit of curiosity because I could imagine myself just sitting there, but I would imagine I'd want to write things down and like I'd get ideas and that's the way my brain works. Do you find that that happens to you? Do you have to fight that urge? Like what happens in that case?
Yes, that is a thing because especially when you create space,
Hmm.
creativity often comes up.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel that urge like, oh, I'm going to write this down. But that's part of that meditative practice is like, I'm
Yeah.
just going to allow it to be. I'm not going to take any action, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do this meditation. I'm going to figure out how to get rich, or I'm going to figure out like the, and maybe you will. Maybe you
Yeah.
will. That's not why you're doing it. You're just creating space, introducing space. And if you interrupt that space with like writing things down, you're out. You've moved on to
Okay.
something else. And
Yeah.
that's you can do that the rest of your day. I will say this though, if you have something that's like really powerful that comes to you in when you're in that empty space, if it's really powerful and really important, it's probably going to stick around. You're probably going to remember it.
Hmm.
But I don't have a problem with writing things down. Writing things down is a great thing to do. I'm a huge fan of lists. I've always got a to do list going. But this is a different kind of thing, and that's the practice of this is just not to let anything enter it. Which is why something like a float tank. I'm a huge fan of float tanks. Can also be a powerful experience because once again, you're doing the same thing. You're creating space, and
You're
now you
forced to. You
yeah,
can't
and
do
now
anything else.
you can't write something down in a
Yeah.
right. You really have to just lay there and surrender and just let what happens. And sometimes it can be it can be incredibly boring for one moment, and then you can find yourself traveling the vast infinite cosmos and having this incredibly borderline psychedelic experience in a float tank. But and sometimes it can be totally benign, and meditation is the same way, but you're not going to be able to see any of it until you open up that space for it.